So hey guys, John Gordon here with Growing with Gordon, and we are going to have a conversation around what it is to become a real estate agent. And I'll go into my background a little bit more and kind of the different directions or pivots that I've taken and what I see the future looking like, and go into a little more detail on why people get into real estate, specifically as an agent, and just their pros and cons to really any career choice that you have within real estate. And I'm just going to touch on a lot of what you can do, but really the opportunities are endless depending on what direction you want to go. So without further ado, let's begin. So becoming a real estate agent, there are two tests that you must take, a national test and a state test. And then the hours involved, kind of like the requirements or the prereqs or the classes that you must take. I believe it's 120 hours, but I will have to double check that. It's either 60 or 120. But either way, I'll be able to confirm that amount either on this show or the next conversation. But you have to go through stuff like fair housing, rules, regulations, laws on what changed back then to now. And obviously, it's pretty self-explanatory items, yet it's still like, how would you react in this situation? What would you talk about? What would you not talk about? Such things as one of my favorites is a term called steering. And people ask, can you tell me about the crime in a neighborhood? Can you tell me about this? Can you tell me about that? And as a real estate agent, we're by law required to send helpful information like links so that people can do their own research, because you can't, or it's looked down upon, or I even make the joke. I'm like, I want to keep my license because I am not allowed to tell you what neighborhood has what neighborhood has more crime than others. That's very much a no-no. It's looked down upon. And ethics, and that's its own conversation in itself on the requirements needed to become a real estate agent. But I want to take a few steps back and just the why I got into real estate and the different avenues you can go down, and if you should join a team or not join a team, going solo, if this is going to be a full-time career or a part-time hustle, or just on the investment standpoint, if you want to be a realtor to help save on costs and finding properties to purchase, selling properties, rentals, flips, really it's endless opportunity, as I stated before. So as I said a few discussions ago, I talked about shadowing a good friend of mine, Jason, who was flipping homes in Richmond. I was learning about this idea of real estate. I didn't have any family that I knew of. I later learned that there are distant cousins that do real estate up in Connecticut, New Jersey, and also a cousin that does real estate quite well down in Florida. And I was just shadowing him, and I was asking him kind of more specific questions around, like, what am I allowed to talk about when I'm looking for homes and working with clients or investors? What are some of the rules and regulations that go into it that I need to follow? And I was just these sorts of questions. He was like, why don't you become a real estate agent? And then a couple weeks later, I was then connected with the team that I ended up joining through Keller Williams, Catherine Ham's team. And that I dove in head first, which a career like this, it's really hard to dip your toes in and figure it out, because there's a lot of hustle, there's a lot of persistence and perseverance that one must have to really learn the ins and outs of real estate quickly and efficiently so that you can have that success. Not necessarily right off the bat. It takes time. What's the statistic on average? It takes 6 months before a first-time realtor gets their first transaction, which that's 6 months of mortgage or rent or bills, food, life expenses. You have to have a good emergency fund or living situation if the statistic that you go by, to get your first transaction in real estate. Now, there are people like tools, methods, ways that you can get your first deal faster than that. It just depends on what you're willing to put into it. So talking to Jason, he suggests I get into real estate. A couple weeks later, I meet with Catherine. One conversation leads to the next, and here I am, what's called a showing assistant on her team, on her small boutique team. Basically what that meant was I wasn't necessarily negotiating contracts, but I was showing clients of hers and her teams like homes and learning what goes into an offer and looking how to analyze homes and determine value. Just all of these great items that any agent needs to learn in the beginning, and what conversations to have, how to handle objections, helping clients figure out what their must-haves are in a house versus what might not be important. And if it is, then just trying to find that house. I wouldn't say perfect house, but find that house for them. So learning lots. They added me onto emails. I was listening in on conversations, going with them on appointments, and just learning everything that I could about this business while trying to find my own, talking to friends. Initially, in the beginning, it sounded salesy, and sometimes that works for people, sometimes it doesn't. And you just have to figure out if real estate is going to be a true passion or career, not necessarily sales scripts, but what kind of conversations are you going to be having with the people that you surround yourself with to potentially lead you towards a sale or a transaction of some sort or an opportunity, and then going after all of those opportunities that present themselves. That's my wife loves and hates it when I say that. What is it? And I can't even remember it now. Go after every opportunity that presents itself. Either way, I'll have to remember that line. I probably haven't said it just because it started to annoy her. But anyways, back to the conversation. So I was learning, basically, as Catherine put it, everything that an agent will learn in 5 years, I had to learn in the first 6 months. So the knowledge, the rules, the contract, I knew backwards and forwards. The Richmond contract, I've since then moved to Northern Virginia. It's a different contract, which same idea, but you still have to learn these items before you can have a professional conversation with a client. And the kind of looking at it from a 30,000 foot view, in my opinion, again, I'm different. Everyone's different and has their own pathways and goals and structure that they like. But I liked having a team teach me the ins and outs of real estate so then I could continue being on teams or go off on my own with all these principles and systems that I learned from the team, things that I liked, things that I didn't like. So as I referenced before and said multiple times, I got married and moved up to Northern Virginia, joined a team as soon as I got up here. I was connected with a team and had good chemistry and just wanted to see where things would go. And there were things that I liked and things I didn't like. It was a younger team, not necessarily age, but had only been around for a couple of years. So there are a lot of different personalities, figuring out how to work together. It's tough starting a team, or kind of you treat it like a startup. But the one big gold nugget that I did learn from being on that team was that you go after every opportunity that presents itself. It's probably more of what the saying that annoys my wife now because I used to say it a ton, but every conversation, every hint at something, you start to pick up on these key words and conversations, emails, text, posts on Facebook, and if you don't go after it, then you just don't know. And going after it really depends on your approach. If you are an aggressive salesman or take a more authentic, personal approach, no matter what, be yourself. In real estate and out of real estate, any career, it's easier said than done, but being yourself, people see the authenticity of who you are and what you're trying to do, how you're trying to help. If you try to pretend to be someone else, then folks will see right through that. Trust is gone, and you just have to move on to the next person. So from anything that I say, just be yourself, be true, be honest, be your organic, natural, authentic, raw self. So after that team, this conversation, I'm bouncing around, so I apologize. But after that team, I decided to go off on my own, which was stressful, had its own pressure added to it. And that'll be multiple conversations. Just how do you handle the stress of being an entrepreneur, the hardships of building a business. And I still haven't figured it out. I'm working through it along with every other business owner and entrepreneur, and handling the stress, working through the hurdles, conquering the mountains, and just doing the best that you can every single day. So it was on my own, ended up partnering with someone, and we worked well together initially, but it's hard to find a partner, someone kind of the yin to your yang, or someone who complements you, or if it's the same type of personality as you. There are pros and cons to finding a partner, and you have to, like anything else, communicate at a high level, be transparent, have trust, be on the same page. And what ended up happening is I saw the vision of the company going one direction. He saw it going another. And it just made sense for us to part ways. And so now, many years later, I'm still cranking it out as an agent on the team. I'm looking to bring on more agents. I have a transaction coordinator, and my partner and I have learned through mistakes, through trial and error of what we think is the best way moving forward. And as any business owner, entrepreneur, you're constantly pivoting and adjusting your strategy, refreshing, cleaning the slate, starting over again and again and again until you put the building blocks together to create that group that you want to be in business with and find that success. So dialing it back, going back to the beginning, getting into real estate itself, a lot of people get into it because they want a career change. Some folks, it's their second, third, fourth career. They may have been teachers, lawyers, in the military, consultants, really any career. And they have a circle, they have family, they may have family in the area, or they could just be moving to a new area and they like the idea of a life by design. And that's from one of the famous lines from Keller Williams that is said over and over. It's probably one of my favorite laws, quote unquote. Another one is success is simple, not easy, which I'll dive deeper into those sayings and plenty more as we have more and more conversations. But it really comes back to what your goals are as an individual and if you want this to be a full-time career in business or just a part-time hustle, because there are plenty of folks who all you need to do are have like 3 or 4 transactions a year and that covers the bills, or your partner is making more money in the relationship, or just really on what I said before, what those personal yearly 5-year goals are in being in real estate. Another direction people go are investors, or if you have a full-time job, become a real estate agent and with the sole purpose of finding your own investment properties. If you're flipping a house a year or finding your own rental properties, usually realtors are the first ones to see the homes or find the opportunity to get in front of folks. So instead of paying someone else a commission, or if they can't negotiate it from the seller, then they become the real estate agent. They find their own deals. They do their own work. So it takes time. I wouldn't necessarily advise this unless you learn everything as you go, because there's a lot of stuff, the ins and outs of what you need to know, your compliance, ethics, whatnot, to help protect you, and especially if you're your own client and real estate agent. But I'll get into that another time. But there are folks who own realtors who have their own rental properties, and that's their main focus, just to help save money in their numbers. So when you're getting into real estate, if you are planning on doing it full time, now do you join a team or do you go solo? The famous question that, if it's not the first question people ask, it's always in the back of their mind and it does come up in conversation, are the commissions, the money, that's how you get paid. People ask, especially if they're looking to join a team or they're entertaining joining a team, what's the commission split? What do I get versus what does the team get? And what does the team give you in return? Versus if you're just a solo agent, you're going to do it yourself. Great. You get 100% of that, you get most of that commission apart from what the brokerage takes as their cap structure. Basically, if there are some Greek life folks who were in fraternities, sororities, it's kind of like you're a part of a fraternity, you pay dues to that fraternity or sorority. And so as a real estate agent, you are required to hang your license with what's called a brokerage. And every brokerage is a little different. As you're getting into real estate, I always advise, because this is the advice that was given to me, interview with a few different brokerages, bigger ones like Keller Williams, EXP, Long & Foster's, the Remaxes, the Century 21s, Compasses, or the smaller family-owned brokerages or individual ones like the mom and pop shops or the more region-specific brokerages. Again, depending on what you want to do in real estate, what your focus is, because sometimes these brokerages are just more investment-focused. Other ones are, they want to attract as many real estate agents because that's their business model. Others, it's more of a recruitment tactic. It's really do your research no matter what when it comes down to it. Anyways, every brokerage has a different cap structure. The funds that you must pay to the brokerage with each transaction to be a part of the brokerage, just like the fraternity example I used. So for example, I could talk for 20 minutes about different structures, which ones, it just really comes back to what your personal preference is and what you're looking for. So what I said before, on a team, what's the commission split, but also what is the team giving you or the brokerage giving you versus being solo. So solo agent, you get that commission once the cap is paid to the brokerage, then the rest is yours, but you still have taxes, you still have marketing that you're going to have to pay for versus being on a team. Some teams should cover your marketing. Smaller items such as lock boxes and signs and shirts and swag and all those things. Like, do you want that as a solo agent, or do you want to be on a team that already has that incorporated? When you're writing contracts, I always advise, even on teams, like write your own contracts just so you can, that's the fastest way to learn the contract. And conversations when clients ask, what's the earnest money deposit, or what does this time frame mean for the appraisal contingency of 12 days versus 21 days? Just like very specific questions that you should be able to answer because it's in the contract. But as a solo agent, do you want to write your own contracts on a Friday evening at 10 o'clock at night, or do you want to leverage that and find your own transaction coordinator? There are a lot of these expenses that come up to help support like a team, but like being on a team, they may have all of these items covered. So what is the team commission split? So in that, just every team has a different structure. If it's 50-50, 70-30, the agent covers X while the team covers Y, and there are pros and cons and benefits to both. Like, let's say you don't want to find your own leads. Then there are teams that you can join that they will just flood you with cold leads that people may have clicked on a Zillow link and the team was the first to get in front of them, but now it's up to you to close them, versus other teams where if you bring a lead, like a friend or someone you meet at an open house, then the team will give you a lead. Where others, you may have to bring your own leads, but the team will support you on the marketing side, the social media, the transaction coordination. They cover a lot of these other expenses. So it's like I keep harping on this. It's good to just do research and interview and talk to as many different people, especially if you're new to the world of real estate. And that is on the investment side. On if you're going solo or joining a team, just learn about what it is, like what experience you want to have, how much time you're able to commit to it, or if you're able to commit all the time. And then how do you leverage to give yourself more time back to spend with family, to protect yourself, to focus on yourself. That pretty much covers at least the surface level of becoming a real estate agent, becoming a solo agent if you're joining a team, or you're going in for more investment purposes, finding your own rental properties. And then more of my story of where I started, where I am now, and what the future looks like. So that being said, hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day, and I look forward to talking to you soon.